What if the person you were trying to save was the last person who deserved it? That's what Rose Miller asked herself as she leaned over the corner table at Luciano's restaurant, her hand trembling as she set down the crystal glass. The man seated before her was Vincent Moretti, a name that made grown men look away, and mothers pull their children close on the sidewalks of South Boston. His silver hair was combed back perfectly, his dark suit pressed without a wrinkle, and his eyes held the weight of 1,000 untold stories. She'd served him his usual bourbon every Thursday night for 3 years, always with the same polite distance. But tonight was different. Tonight, someone had slipped something into his drink while she wasn't looking. Rose watched the kitchen door, then bent close to his ear, her voice barely a whisper. "There's poison in your drink." She straightened quickly, her heart pounding so hard she thought he might hear it. "Where are you watching from tonight?" Vincent Moretti didn't flinch at her words. He simply looked up at Rose with those dark, unreadable eyes and gave the slightest nod. Then he did something that surprised her. He picked up the glass and swirled it slowly, watching the amber liquid catch the dim light of the restaurant. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice rougher than she'd expected, tinged with something that almost sounded like sadness. He set the glass down without drinking and stood, buttoning his jacket with practiced ease. "Walk with me to the kitchen," he said. It wasn't a command exactly, but Rose knew better than to refuse. Her life hadn't prepared her for moments like this. At 63, Rose had spent the last 15 years working at Luciano's after her husband Frank passed. She'd raised 2 daughters on her own before that, working double shifts at the hospital, and somehow always making it to every recital and graduation. Her girls were grown now, living their own lives in different states, with families of their own. The restaurant had become her second home, a place where she knew every regular customer's order and could spot trouble before it started. She'd learned to read people in this job, to sense when someone was celebrating or drowning their sorrows, when to chat and when to leave them be. Vincent Moretti had been coming to Luciano's since before she started working there. Everyone knew who he was, what he did, though no one spoke about it directly. He controlled things in this neighborhood, they said. He kept the peace in his own way. Some called him dangerous. Others said he'd helped their family when they had nowhere else to turn. Rose had formed her own opinion over the years. He was always respectful to her, never raised his voice, and tipped exactly 20%, never more, never less. He came alone every Thursday, ordered the same meal, and sat in the same corner booth facing the door. She'd noticed he never really seemed to enjoy the food. He ate methodically, like it was just fuel. Sometimes she'd catch him staring at the framed photographs on the walls, old pictures of the neighborhood from the 50s and 60s, and something in his expression would soften. As they walked toward the kitchen, Rose's mind raced. She'd seen Tommy, the new prep cook, hovering near Vincent's table earlier. Tommy was young, maybe 25, with angry eyes and tattoos crawling up his neck. He'd only been working at the restaurant for 2 weeks, and Rose had noticed how he tensed whenever Vincent came in. She'd seen Tommy slip something from his pocket while Vincent was looking at the menu. That's when her instincts kicked in. She'd worked too long, seen too much, not to recognize the look of someone about to do something terrible. Who was it? Vincent asked as they pushed through the swinging doors into the kitchen. The dinner rush was over, and only Marco, the head chef, remained, cleaning his station. He looked up, saw Vincent, and immediately found somewhere else to be. Vincent's presence had that effect on people. The new prep cook. "Tommy," Rose said, her voice steadier than she felt. "He put something in your glass when you were reading the menu." "I saw him from the bar." Vincent nodded slowly, his expression unchanged. "Tommy Breslin," he said, and the way he said the name made Rose realize he already knew exactly who the young man was. "His father borrowed money from me 5 years ago. Couldn't pay it back. I gave him extra time, worked out a payment plan. He still couldn't make it work. Lost his business." Vincent paused, and for the first time, Rose saw something flicker across his face. Not anger, something closer to regret. "The father had a heart attack last year. Died owing me $12,000. I forgave the debt. Sent flowers to the funeral." "Tommy doesn't see it that way," Rose said softly. "No," Vincent agreed. He sees a man who destroyed his father. That's what sons do. They carry their father's burdens. He looked at Rose then, really looked at her, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never expected. Weariness. A bone-deep tiredness that had nothing to do with age. You could have said nothing. Let it happen. No one would have blamed you. Why didn't you? The question hung in the kitchen's warm air, mingling with the lingering smells of garlic and tomato sauce. Rose thought about her own daughters, about the choices we make when we think no one's watching. Because that's not who I am, she said simply. My Frank used to say that how we treat people when it costs us something, that's what defines us. Doesn't matter who they are, what they've done. Vincent studied her face for a long moment. Then something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor he wore so carefully. Your Frank was a wise man, he said quietly. He reached into his jacket and Rose's breath caught, but he only pulled out his wallet. He placed $500 bills on the stainless steel counter. For your trouble, and your integrity. I don't want your money, Rose said, surprising herself with her firmness. I did what was right. That's all. For the first time in 3 years, Vincent Moretti smiled. It was a sad smile, but genuine. Then you're a rare woman, Rose Miller. He turned to leave, then paused. Tommy's in the storage room. He's probably planning to leave town tonight. He'll do it anyway, eventually, but I'd like to talk to him first. Rose followed Vincent to the storage room, her sensible work shoes quiet on the tile floor. She didn't know why she was following him. Maybe because she'd started something and needed to see it through. Maybe because she was curious what happened when a man like Vincent Moretti showed mercy. Or maybe because she'd seen something in his eyes back in the kitchen. Something broken and human, and she wanted to understand it. Tommy was indeed in the storage room, shoving cans into a backpack with shaking hands. He looked up when the door opened and his face went white when he saw Vincent. Then his fear twisted into something harder, more desperate. He pulled a knife from his belt, the blade catching the fluorescent light. Stay back, he said, his voice cracking. I'm not afraid of you. Yes, you are, Vincent said calmly, making no move toward him. And you should be. But I'm not here for that. He glanced at Rose, then back at Tommy. Put the knife down. We're going to talk. Talk? Tommy's laugh was brittle. About how you killed my father? About how you took everything from us? Vincent was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was lower, gentler than Rose had ever heard it. Your father was a good man who made bad choices. He came to me when no bank would help him. I gave him money to save his restaurant. He used it to gamble instead. That wasn't my doing, son. That was his! Liar! Tommy's hand shook so badly the knife wavered. He would never— Yes, he would, Vincent interrupted. Because he was desperate and ashamed and thought he could win it back before anyone knew. That's what addiction does. It makes good people do foolish things. He took a small step forward. I know because I watched my own father do the same thing. Drank himself to death trying to escape his failures. I was about your age when he died. Blamed everyone but him. Spent years angry at the world. Something in Tommy's expression shifted. The knife lowered slightly. Rose held her breath, pressed against the door frame, watching this strange confession unfold in a restaurant storage room that smelled of olive oil and dried pasta. I forgave your father's debt, Vincent continued. Not because I'm generous. Because I remembered being a son who lost his father too young. I sent flowers because I understood your pain. He paused, his voice dropping to almost a whisper. But you came here tonight to poison me anyway. To become the very thing you think I am. Tears were streaming down Tommy's face now. He was a good man, he choked out. Before you. Before the debt. Before everything fell apart. I know he was, Vincent said, and Rose heard the genuine sorrow in his voice. And I'm sorry, not for giving him the loan, but for not seeing the deeper problem. For not doing more. He extended his hand slowly, palm up. Give me the knife, Tommy. Don't throw your life away. Don't make your mother lose a son the same year she lost her husband. The mention of his mother broke something in Tommy. His shoulders sagged. The knife clattered to the floor. He slid down the wall, sobbing into his hands like a child. Vincent stood there for a moment, looking down at the broken young man, and Rose saw his jaw tighten. Then, slowly, Vincent bent down and picked up the knife. He folded it closed and placed it on a nearby shelf. Then he did something that made Rose's eyes sting with unexpected tears. He sat down on the floor beside Tommy, this powerful man in his expensive suit, sitting on the cold storage room floor, and he placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "I lost my son," Vincent said quietly, so quietly Rose almost didn't hear. 10 years ago. He was about your age, tried to leave the family business, wanted to be something different. Something clean. I told him he was being foolish. That family comes first, that he owed me his loyalty. His voice cracked slightly. He died in a car accident driving away from an argument we had. The last words I said to him were angry ones. So I understand regret, Tommy. I understand grief that turns to poison in your chest. Tommy looked up at Vincent, his young face ravaged by tears. Then why? Why do you keep doing this? Hurting people? Because I don't know how to be anything else, Vincent said simply. Your father knew what I was when he came to me. Everyone knows, but they come anyway because I'm the only option they have. I'm not a good man, Tommy, but I'm not the monster you need me to be either. I'm just tired. He stood slowly, offering his hand to help Tommy up. Go home to your mother. Tomorrow there'll be money in your account, $20,000. Use it to start over somewhere. Go to school. Learn a trade. Be better than your father. Be better than me. Tommy stared at his hand like it might be a trap. Rose watched from the doorway as the young man finally took it, letting Vincent pull him to his feet. Why? Tommy whispered. After what I tried to do? Because Rose Miller risked something to save my life tonight, Vincent said, glancing at her. And I'd like to honor that. I'd like to believe that mercy can still mean something, even from a man like me. He looked back at Tommy. Don't make me regret it. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up. It helps us share more stories that matter. Tommy left through the back door, his backpack hanging loose on his shoulder, looking both younger and older than his years. Rose and Vincent stood in the storage room, the fluorescent light humming above them, the restaurant silent beyond the door. Finally, Vincent turned to her. I suppose you have questions now. Just one, Rose said. What happens next? Vincent's smile was sad and knowing. That depends on you, Rose Miller. They walked back into the empty dining room together. The chairs already upturned on the tables, the floors freshly mopped. Marco had left, probably relieved to avoid whatever conversation might follow. Vincent went to his usual corner booth and sat down, gesturing for Rose to join him. She hesitated, then slid into the seat across from him. In 3 years, she'd never sat at his table. The view from this side was different. She could see the entire restaurant, every entrance and exit, every shadow and corner. She understood now why he always chose this spot. I'm going to tell you something, Vincent said, folding his hands on the table, and then you're going to make a choice. He paused, studying her face. My name carries weight in this neighborhood. Fear, mostly, but also a kind of order. People come to me with problems they can't solve legally. A landlord who won't fix a heating system in winter. A loan shark who's threatening a family. A kid who needs help getting out of a gang. I handle things. He leaned back. I'm not proud of how I handle them. But they get handled. Rose listened, her hands folded in her lap. She thought of her own daughters. Of all the times she'd had to make hard choices to protect them. Times when the right thing and the legal thing weren't the same. Go on, she said. I'm 68 years old, Vincent continued. I'm tired, Rose. Tired of the fear. Tired of young men like Tommy wanting to kill me. Tired of my own reflection. He looked at the photographs on the wall. Those old images of a neighborhood that didn't exist anymore. My wife died 7 years ago. Cancer. She spent her last days begging me to stop, to find a different way. I promised her I would, but I didn't know how. Still don't. What about your son? Rose asked gently. You said he wanted out. Vincent's face tightened with old pain. Michael. He was smart, gentle, loved books more than business, wanted to teach literature at a university. He smiled slightly, used to quote Steinbeck at me, all great and precious things are lonely. I never understood what he meant until he was gone. His voice dropped. I've spent 10 years wondering if I pushed him away, or if he was running toward something. Either way, I wasn't man enough to let him go with my blessing. Rose felt her throat tighten. She knew something about letting children go, about the fear that they might not come back. "I have 2 daughters," she said. "Sarah's in California. Emily's in Oregon. They call every week, visit twice a year. And every time they leave, I worry it's the last time I'll see them, that something will happen, that I wasn't a good enough mother." She met his eyes. "We can't undo our regrets, Vincent. We can only decide what we do with the time we have left." "That's why I need your help," Vincent said. And Rose saw vulnerability in his face that probably few people ever witnessed. "You have something I lost a long time ago. People trust you, respect you. You're part of this neighborhood in a way I never can be. I want to change things, start fixing what I've broken, but I can't do it alone. I need someone who sees the good in people, who gives them chances, who has integrity." Rose shook her head slowly. "Vincent, I'm just a waitress. I don't know anything about your world." "Exactly," he said. "You're not part of it. That's the point." He leaned forward. "I want to start a community fund. Help people legally. Small business loans, family emergencies, kids' education. Money I've earned over the years. Used for something that won't come back to haunt me. But it needs someone to run it. Someone people will trust. Someone who'll make sure the money goes to the right places." Rose felt overwhelmed. This wasn't what she'd expected when she whispered her warning tonight. "I don't know. You saved my life tonight," Vincent interrupted gently. "Not because you liked me. Not because you wanted something. Because it was right. That's the kind of judgment I need. That's what this neighborhood needs." He paused. "I'm not asking you to forgive what I've been. I'm asking you to help me become something different, even if it's just for the years I have left." Rose looked at this man, this complicated, damaged man who'd lived a life she couldn't imagine, and she thought about her Frank. He'd always believed people could change, that it was never too late to start over. She thought about Tommy, given a second chance tonight. About Vincent's son, who'd never gotten one. About all the people in this neighborhood who needed help but were afraid to ask for it. Have you ever faced a moment when someone asked you to believe in them, despite everything? Let us know in the comments how you handled it. "I'll think about it," Rose finally said. "But I need to know something first. The poison, what was it?" Vincent reached into his pocket and pulled out a small vial he'd apparently retrieved while she wasn't looking. Rat poison mixed with something else. Tommy isn't sophisticated enough to know it would have taken hours to work. Painful hours. He set the vial on the table. "I would have known after the first sip. The taste, the burn. But I wouldn't have known in time." He looked at her steadily. "You saved my life, Rose. Now I'm asking you to help me make it mean something." Rose didn't sleep that night. She lay in her small apartment above the corner bakery, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the neighborhood settling into darkness. Police sirens in the distance, a couple arguing in the street, the rumble of the late-night bus. She thought about Vincent's offer, turning it over in her mind like a stone she was trying to understand. By morning, she'd made her decision. She found him the next day at the address he'd written on a napkin. It was an old office building near the harbor, the kind that used to house shipping companies back when the waterfront meant something. Vincent's office was on the 3rd floor, surprisingly modest. Wood paneling, old furniture, a desk that looked like it had survived several decades, but the window offered a view of the water, gray and endless under the autumn sky. "I'll do it," Rose said, standing in the doorway, "but on my terms." Vincent looked up from the papers he was reading, and something like relief crossed his face. "Tell me. First, everything has to be legal. I won't touch anything that isn't. Second, I choose who gets help and who doesn't. You don't interfere. Third, we start small, test it, make sure it works before we go bigger." She stepped into the office. "And fourth, you have to tell me the truth. About everything. About your business. About what you're really trying to do. No secrets between us if this is going to work." Vincent stood, buttoning his jacket in that habitual way of his. "Agreed. All of it." He moved to a filing cabinet and pulled out a folder thick with documents. "I've already had my lawyer draw up the paperwork. It's called the Michael Moretti Community Foundation, named for my son. There's $2 million in the account to start. More will come as I liquidate certain assets." Rose's hand trembled as she took the folder. $2 million. It was more money than she could properly imagine. "Vincent, I'm dying," he said simply, and the words hung in the air like smoke. "The doctors told me 6 months ago. Pancreatic cancer. Maybe a year if I'm lucky. I've been trying to figure out how to make amends before I go. What you did last night, it showed me the way." He smiled slightly. "Besides, I can't take it with me, and I have no one to leave it to." Rose felt tears prick her eyes. She'd saved a dying man's life, only to learn he was dying anyway. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Does anyone know?" "Just my lawyer and my doctor. And now you." He moved to the window, looking out at the water. "I've spent my whole life taking from this neighborhood. Time I gave something back. Time I tried to be the man my son wanted me to be, even if he's not here to see it." They spent the next 3 months building something together. Rose quit her job at the restaurant, and Vincent set up a small office for the foundation in the same building. They met every morning, going through applications, talking to families, making decisions. Rose discovered Vincent had a sharp mind for details and a surprising gentleness when he met with people who needed help. She watched him listen to a grandmother trying to keep her grandchildren out of foster care, saw him quietly arrange for her rent to be paid for a year, witnessed him help a young veteran get the surgery he needed, the kind the VA couldn't cover, saw him fund a scholarship for a brilliant girl whose parents couldn't afford college. The neighborhood began to change. Slowly, cautiously, people started to whisper about the foundation, about Vincent Moretti doing something good for once. Some were skeptical. Others were grateful. Rose became the face of it all, the one people trusted. But she made sure everyone knew Vincent was behind it, that he was trying to make things right. They became friends, she and Vincent. Real friends. She learned about his childhood in Sicily, about arriving in Boston at age 7 not speaking a word of English, about his parents' struggles, his father's drinking, his early decisions that led him down a path he couldn't easily leave. He learned about her life too, about nursing school she never finished when she got pregnant with Sarah, about Frank's long illness, about her dreams of maybe writing a book someday, stories about the people she'd met working all those years. One morning in December, 3 days before Christmas, Vincent didn't come to the office. His lawyer called. Vincent had collapsed at home and was in the hospital. Rose grabbed her coat and rushed over, her heart hammering. She found him in a private room, looking smaller somehow. The man who'd seemed so powerful, now diminished by illness and the sterile hospital bed. "Hey," he said when he saw her, his voice weak. "Sorry I missed our meeting. If you've been enjoying this story, please subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales like this one. It means the world to us." Rose pulled a chair close to his bed and took his hand. It felt cold, papery. "Don't apologize. Rest. Get strong." "We both know that's not happening," Vincent said with a slight smile. "But I wanted to tell you something while I still can. Thank you, Rose, for seeing something in me worth saving, for helping me do this. Michael would have liked you. He would have been glad to know someone like you was helping me try to be better." "You did it yourself," Rose said, squeezing his hand gently. "I just walked beside you." They sat together in the quiet hospital room, two people who'd found unexpected friendship in the last year of one man's life, and Rose realized that sometimes redemption doesn't come from grand gestures. Sometimes it comes from small choices, from mercy offered when it's difficult, from believing people can change even when the world says they can't. Vincent Moretti passed away on December 27th, with Rose holding his hand and Christmas lights still twinkling in the hospital window. His funeral was small, private, just as he'd requested, but the memorial service the foundation held 3 weeks later packed the community center. Hundreds of people came, families he'd helped, children whose college was now paid for, grandparents who could afford their medicine, small business owners who'd gotten a second chance. They came to say thank you to a man who'd spent most of his life being feared, and his last year trying to be loved. Rose stood at the front of the room, looking out at all those faces, and she understood what Vincent had been trying to do. He'd been building a legacy that would outlast the fear, one act of kindness at a time. "Vincent Moretti was a complicated man," she began, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "He made choices in his life that hurt people. He knew that, lived with that, but in the end he chose differently. He chose to use what he had to help instead of harm. He chose to give people chances when the world wouldn't. He chose redemption. even though he knew he was running out of time. She told them about Tommy, about the night that started everything, about Vincent sitting on a storage room floor beside a young man who'd tried to kill him, offering mercy instead of revenge. She told them about the foundation's first year, about the scholarship fund Vincent had created in his son's name, about the small business loans that didn't come with threats or strings. She told them about the man behind the reputation, the father who'd lost his son, the husband who'd lost his wife, the person who'd finally found a way to be better. After the service, Tommy approached her. He was dressed in a suit, clean-shaven, looking like a different person from the desperate young man in the storage room. "I'm in community college now," he told her. "Business management. Mr. Moretti's lawyer has been helping me with my mother's finances. She's doing better. Seeing a grief counselor." He paused, his eyes red. "I need to say thank you. For stopping me. For saving me from becoming something I couldn't come back from." Rose hugged him. This young man who'd been given a second chance. "Vincent saved you," she said. "I just whispered the right words at the right time." The foundation continued to grow. Vincent's lawyer had set everything up perfectly, ensuring the work would go on long after both of them were gone. Rose dedicated herself to it full-time, becoming the heart of an organization that quietly changed lives throughout the neighborhood. She hired staff, built partnerships with schools and social services, expanded the programs. Every decision she made, she thought about what Vincent would have wanted, what Michael would have approved of. On the first anniversary of Vincent's death, Rose went to his grave. It was in a quiet cemetery outside the city, near where his wife was buried. His son was there too, all three of them, together now. She brought flowers, simple ones from the corner market, and she sat on the bench nearby, watching the wind move through the winter trees. "We helped 43 families last month," she said quietly, as if he could hear. "Put 6 kids through college this year. Saved 2 businesses from closing. Had 4 young people come to us wanting to leave gangs, and we found them jobs, housing, new starts." She smiled through her tears. "We're doing good work, Vincent. Real good work, the kind that lasts." She thought about that night in the restaurant. The glass of poisoned bourbon. The choice she'd made to whisper a warning. Such a small thing, really. A few words. But those words had changed everything. They'd given a man time to make amends. They'd created something that would outlive them both. They'd proved that it's never too late to choose differently. To be better. To believe that mercy matters. Rose was 70 now. Still running the foundation. Still meeting with families. Still seeing the best in people, even when they struggled to see it themselves. Her daughters visited more often now, proud of their mother's work, bringing the grandchildren to volunteer during summer breaks. She'd published a small book last year, stories from the foundation, stories about people who'd been given second chances. The dedication read, "For Vincent, who taught me that redemption is possible, even at the end. And for Frank, who taught me that kindness is always the answer." The neighborhood had changed. There was less fear now, more hope. People talked about the Moretti Foundation the way they might talk about a neighbor who always had your back. Vincent's name was slowly becoming associated with help instead of harm, with possibility instead of threat. It was the legacy he'd wanted, the redemption he'd sought. Rose had made sure of it. As she stood to leave the cemetery that day, she thought about all the moments that had led to this one. The decision to warn a man who probably didn't deserve it. The choice to see his humanity beneath his reputation. The willingness to believe people could change, even when everything said they couldn't. She thought about Frank's words, the ones she'd quoted that night in the kitchen. How we treat people when it costs us something. That's what defines us. She'd taken a risk that night, whispering those words, but it had been the right thing to do. And in the end, that's all any of us can hope for, to do the right thing when it matters, to show mercy when it's hard, to believe in redemption even for those the world has given up on. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like this video, leave a comment sharing your thoughts about second chances and redemption, and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories about the choices that change lives. Thank you for being here with Rose and Vincent on this journey. May we all find the courage to offer mercy when it matters most, and may we all have someone in our lives willing to whisper a warning when we need it. Take care of each other out there,